Thank you all for that kind introduction this afternoon. This is truly a special occasion. The Henry Meyer Festival Park is a place of celebration, of entertainment, and memories. This is a public space where people from across Milwaukee and beyond come together. And for decades, we have enjoyed a vision first imagined at City Hall and followed through by creative people who built this place and events here into what we know today. This is an unusual time for a State of the City presentation, but that's fitting for an unusual year. The uncertainty surrounding our financial predicament made a presentation about our situation impossible. But now, after months of effort, our work to put Milwaukee government on a sustainable fiscal course is almost done. My strategy has been to build consensus among groups of people who are often at odds. While that sounds like common sense, it has become a political rarity in a world where harsh, strident, and inflexible positions prevent progress from happening. Communicating, partnering, and seeking the common good is the best path forward as we address major challenges that are in front of us. I focus on what we have in common. We are one Milwaukee, a city composed of a remarkable array of people in varied backgrounds and cultures and races. We are one Milwaukee, where residents may speak different languages, have different educational experiences, and different levels of wealth or poverty. Yet those differences do not divide us on the most important of civic concerns. We are one Milwaukee, and our shared desires for public safety, for equitable economic opportunity, and city services that serve the needs of every person in every neighborhood. Overall, our economy is strong, with an unemployment rate in Milwaukee County running at around 3%. That's better than the national rate. However, we cannot ignore the clear disparities in economic health that exists within our city. We're investing in housing and deploying innovative approaches in neighborhoods across Milwaukee where quality housing is lacking. Here's an example. Homes MKE is moving forward with its $15 million effort to renovate up to 150 vacant, tax-foreclosed houses. Yes, they are. Emerging developers and respected not-for-profit groups have already begun construction, and in the coming months, families will start moving into these homes. In the center of the city, we're seeing a boom that is plainly evident. First, in construction, where work is underway on multiple significant structures. 3 separate projects have started that will add high-rise residential buildings, each more than 30 stories. Other big residential projects are also expected to start soon. The second way we can see the economic boom is in the companies choosing Milwaukee for growth and expansion. Milwaukee Tool is joining Komatsu, joining Whitehite, joining Michaels with projects that have brought a large number of good jobs to Milwaukee. Northwestern Mutual is starting a major addition to its campus that will add employees to downtown. And Pfizer, a Fortune 500 company, is moving its headquarters to Milwaukee right at the corner of Wisconsin and Belle R. Phillips Avenues. Now, the hundreds of Pfizer employees working from the new offices could have been moved to any of the company's locations across the country. Instead, Pfizer selected Milwaukee. Yes, they did. So, Milwaukee is in the midst of a resurgence, and a resurgence in the hospitality sector of our economy, too. Make no mistake, our city is the preeminent location in Wisconsin for tourism and convention activity. Modern Great Lakes cruise liners have selected Milwaukee as the city to begin and end itineraries bringing thousands of passengers to our port. Our new addition to the Baird Center will double the convention capacity and bring up to 100,000 additional out-of-state convention goers here each year. Next summer, the Republican National Convention will allow Milwaukee to show the nation and the world that we are an ideal location for major events. And I'm already working with Visit Milwaukee to attract more big events to our city. future requires more than just building and growing. We also have an obligation to address the challenges that Milwaukee faces. Some particularly glaring issues relate to the disparities affecting Black and Hispanic residents in Milwaukee. We see that in infant mortality, lead poisoning data, and other health metrics. For example, the Black infant mortality rate is 3 times higher than that of white infants. Milwaukee Health Department programs such as the BOM Doula program provide maternal and child health services, improving outcomes. Only 70% of Hispanic residents have health insurance, compared to 95% rate coverage for whites. Our Community Health Care Access program addresses this racial disparity by enrolling Milwaukee residents into Badger Care Plus and food share services. Childhood blood lead levels are twice as high among Black children compared to those of white children. Last year, the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program received 109 elevated blood lead level referrals and issued hundreds of permits for abatement services to homes in Milwaukee. We see disparities in the economy. So the City of Milwaukee requires development projects that receive significant municipal support to employ residents who are unemployed or underemployed. We require those projects to use small, disadvantaged businesses. While Milwaukee does not currently provide racial preferences in hiring or contracting, the Wisconsin legislature recently imposed explicit restrictions against racial preferences. I oppose that. That was unnecessary. Unnecessary. It's unnecessary, and it bluntly ignores the reality on the ground in Milwaukee. I'll state it clearly. Government has a moral obligation to assist its residents who are discriminated against. We do. Government has a moral obligation to help those folks who have been left out. It's basic human decency to intervene when harm disproportionately affects one or more racial groups. So Milwaukee will not defy the law. However, we will find ways to follow through on our principles. A separate challenge Milwaukee is wrestling with involves young people who are disconnected from societal norms and acting in destructive ways. It's evident in our roadways and in crime statistics. Now, I believe in consequences for those who break the law, but a punitive approach alone is not sufficient. So I'm adding something else to the mix. Attention to the root causes of the problem. Based on my personal experience, I know that positively engaging young people in their preteen and early teen years can make a major difference in the direction their lives take. Milwaukee is rich with resources that can help. Young people can find direction at organizations like those associated with the United Neighborhood Centers of Milwaukee, Safe and Sound, the Boys and Girls Club, and Milwaukee recreation programs. New opportunities exist through the Milwaukee Police Athletic League and other programs. A new city website, Hello Summer, is a connection point for events, programs, and employment. That's at milwaukee.gov/Hello Summer. I also want to call attention to one of my favorite programs. That's Camp Rise. Camp Rise emerged from a group called Voices of the Elders. It's a concept that I immediately embraced. As it's grown, Employ Milwaukee, along with Milwaukee Public Schools and many generous donors, have made it a truly valuable program. And I offer a special thank you to Governor Tony Evers, who immediately recognized the value of Camp Rise and directed significant resources to make it a reality. Thank you, Governor. Camp Rise invites kids between the ages of 10 and 13 to open their worlds, to see what's possible, and to equip them with the basic tools they need to find positive direction in their lives. A distinguishing aspect of Camp Rise is that participating young people receive a stipend, a nominal amount of money for participating. It's a taste of how the working world operates, and more importantly, how they fit into that world. I want to introduce DeAnthony Roth. Where's DeAnthony? He's around here somewhere. There he is. So, D'Anthony wrote, he's a Camp Rise alumnus, and you may have read his story in yesterday's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I remember when D'Anthony introduced me at a Camp Rise media event, and he said that what he did was well. He did it very well. It's fair to say that D'Anthony's eyes were open to new possibilities through Camp Rise. And yes, D'Anthony, I'm looking at you right now. One day, you could be mayor. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, yes, we are one Milwaukee, and we all have a part to play in guiding our young people like D'Anthony to success. A very large portion of my attention in recent months has been focused on the fiscal challenges the city of Milwaukee faces. Without a major change in the structure of our finances, we will experience draconian cuts to our police department, to our fire department, and to our libraries. When I became mayor, I pledged to resolve the decades-old broken relationship between Milwaukee and state government. Nearly 40 years ago, then Mayor Henry Meyer expressed his outrage that the expected growth in shared revenue, that's the money that Wisconsin provides to local governments, was being constrained. Years later, the amount sent to Milwaukee was frozen, and for the last 20 years or so, the money shared through the shared revenue program, it never increased. That was unsustainable, particularly for a city with no viable alternative for raising tax revenue. You see, Milwaukee is an outlier, a city in a unique situation among major urban communities in the United States, and having just one tax revenue source. That's the property tax. And the property tax is not a tax source that keeps pace with inflation. In recent city budgets, we've dodged the inevitable and extreme cuts by deploying federal American Rescue Plan Act funds to fill the gap. However, that was hardly a long-term strategy. Complicating the situation, our city pension system is requiring a greater contribution in order to fulfill our obligation to city retirees. So I took our case to leaders in the state capitol. I said I would have a cot in the Capitol, and I spent an enormous amount of time there. That led to one of the most remarkable aspects of this journey. City leaders, state legislative leaders were able to talk. Political barriers to substantive communication, in place for a long time, they began to fall away. Milwaukee's predicament was at last getting the full attention of state leaders. The discussions explored in great detail the complexities of the situation. Now, of course, no elected official wants to champion a new tax, but our reality presented no alternative. Even so, there were questions. What was the right tax rate? What mechanism should be used to initiate the tax? Then, building support among the Republican caucuses in the Assembly and the Senate introduced a range of demands and changes. Add police officers, add firefighters. I can embrace that. But then there were punitive provisions. Restrict funding for the streetcar. Add impediments to new programs and spending. Limit diversity and inclusion work. Take power from the Fire and Police Commission. Milwaukee's fiscal cliff opened the door to Republican demands that would have never passed muster for me or at the city's Common Council. No matter how loudly I said no, the steamroller of political reality moved forward. But let me be clear, Milwaukee accomplished its top objective, and we now have a solution that will overcome decades of fiscal problems, and our city now has a path forward. To achieve this, Milwaukee had a number of solid partners. County Executive David Crowley and Milwaukee County Board Chairwoman Marcelia Nicholson have been right alongside us. The Metropolitan Milwaukee Association of Commerce, the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities have all played important roles. From inside City Hall, the intergovernmental relations and budget offices have done extraordinary work. And thank you, Common Council President Jose Perez, for the time, the effort, the numerous trips that you made to Madison. Mr. President, your private meetings and public testimony amplified the city's position on a range of issues. So ultimately, legislative leaders rallied around Assembly Bill 245. Speaker Robin Voss and Representative Tony Kurtz in the Assembly and Majority Leader Devin Lemahue and Senator Mary Felskowski in the Senate were among those who led the way. Democratic legislators were champions too, including State Senator LaTanya Johnson, including State Representatives Caitlin Hayward, Sylvia Ortiz-Velez, Christine Sinicki, and Deb Andraka. Thank you all. Thank you all. I also can't overstate the important role that Governor Tony Evers played in this process. Now, I know, Governor, there were times where your patience and your values were tested. Milwaukee is grateful for your support, Governor. Thank you again. So where we stand now? I support a 2% city sales tax. The decision to move forward on that is now in the hands of Milwaukee's Common Council, where at least 10 members must approve. For our long-term budget prospects, there are reasons to be hopeful, but yet there's not certainty. We only have estimates of the actual revenue we might receive from the sales tax, and the new costs associated with pension changes add to the uncertainty. What's clear, though, is that Milwaukee's fiscal situation will be far, far better with a sales tax than without one. It's important to note that the most objectionable non-fiscal matters included in the state legislation are in place irrespective of whether local approval of the sales tax occurs. The limitations on streetcar expansion, the rulemaking authority for the Fire and Police Commission, the mandated police and public schools, the elimination of race as a factor in hiring or contracting. All of this is now the law whether or not we move forward with the sales tax. Frankly, what's at stake in the upcoming council vote is whether Milwaukee will have the resources to provide the basic services our residents need. Without this new revenue, we will have no options other than laying off hundreds of police officers, hundreds of firefighters, devastating our ability to respond promptly to emergencies. Libraries all across the city will be shuttered. We'll spiral deeper and deeper into a fiscal crisis. Now, we're working with alders to answer questions and encourage support. And I've pointed out for the first time, visitors and commuters will start paying for the local services that they receive. I've pointed out that the sales tax is not collected on basics like groceries or prescription drugs. And I've shared a brighter future for the city in which emergency responses are faster and libraries will be open, offering more innovative programs for our younger residents. That is how we build one Milwaukee we can all be proud of. So I'm hopeful we can resolve our structural fiscal problems so that our attention can be refocused on other challenges ahead of us. Now, I've got no higher priority than improving public safety in Milwaukee. Fear, crime, and violence, they disrupt our quality of life. They undermine our economy, and too often they destroy lives. Let's start with a look at reckless driving. Now, we've all experienced the shock of a reckless driver ignoring a traffic signal or irresponsibly passing on the right or tearing along some local street as if they were driving in some invisible NASCAR final lap. Too many innocent drivers have been smashed into, and yes, too many lives have been lost. But there are 4 different ways we're taking on reckless driving. First, we formally task city staff to lead the response. That includes implementing best practices from organizations such as NACTO and Vision Zero. A great deal of that work has been led by Kate Riordan from the Department of Public Works. And in recent weeks, we've added a new team leader. Thank you. And in recent weeks, we've added a new team leader, Jessica Weinberg, in our Department of Administration. So, thank you, Jessica. So, we're listening to residents and we're developing new plans. The second way we're working to reduce reckless driving is through education. Partners such as the Greater Milwaukee Urban League are working to get hundreds of people trained and licensed to drive. At Milwaukee Rec, driver training is broadly available and at reasonable rates. Some of our biggest investments are in our third approach, and that involves physical changes to our roadways that make reckless driving much less likely. I'm sure you've seen our work around town. We're constricting lanes and adding crosswalk bump outs. New concrete is being poured on a regular schedule. That's improving safety for drivers and car passengers. And it's also directly advancing another concept that is so important to me, that streets are for everyone. Streets are for everybody. Streets are for everybody, and they should be designed with pedestrians in mind. They should be designed with scooters in mind. They should be designed with bicycles in mind and with local businesses in mind. And the fourth step is enforcement. And the Milwaukee Police Department Traffic Safety Unit is laser focused on holding reckless drivers accountable for their actions. The police officers are out there pulling over violators, they're writing tickets, and hundreds of times they've used their legal authority to tow the cars of repeat reckless drivers and unregistered vehicles used by reckless drivers. The Traffic Safety Unit targets locations all around the city. In fact, I'll even let you know on a little secret. The police are so forthcoming about their enforcement activity that they announce in advance where the high visibility enforcement efforts will take place. So go on the website. Right now you can see that they're out on Silver Spring Drive, west of 43rd Street, on the watch for reckless drivers. I'm also grateful for the support from the state of Wisconsin in our reckless driving efforts. Governor Weaver's State Patrol, which ordinarily does not even patrol in the city of Milwaukee, has worked with us and assisted on multiple occasions. We track the numbers on reckless driving, the crashes, the tickets, the injuries, and the fatalities. I want more progress, but I have confidence we're moving in the right direction. One number that's particularly noteworthy and related to a major subset of reckless drivers is the big reduction in the number of stolen cars. Motor vehicle thefts are down about 1/3 this year when compared to this time last year. That's good. And if you like that news, then you'll like that compared to 2 years ago at this time, the number of stolen cars is down almost 40%, and that is good news for Milwaukee. And those numbers are a trend, part of a trend that bodes well for the city. Part 1 crime, a definition established for FBI major crime reporting, is down about 15% so far this year. And that continues the good news we saw for the full year of 2022, when crime was down significantly compared to the previous year. Yes, there's still too many instances of property crime and violence, but a number frequently cited in crime discussions is the number of homicides. So far this year, homicides are down about 30% in the city of Milwaukee. So there's no magic solution to urban crime and violence. The causes are complex. The solutions are complex too. Our police are central to safety in the city. They respond in emergencies, enforce the laws, and arrest criminals. And they deter and prevent crime. As I've said frequently, though, the police cannot do it alone. Safety is a cause we all take part in. In my vision of One Milwaukee, everyone has a responsibility for reducing crime. So what's that mean? We all are obligated to report suspicious activity. We all have a role in holding people accountable. We can join with our neighbors in block clubs. We can offer mentorship and guidance to young people. All of this together will help to make our city safer. Partnerships are key. And that is a significant part of the work underway at the Office of Violence Prevention. Under the leadership of Ashanti Hamilton, that office is mobilizing dozens of promise keepers who are making connections with community resources in the work to make the city safer. Ashanti, thank you for your work. But the frequency in which guns are used to attack others in Milwaukee still, though, is appalling. It is. There's simply too many guns in the hands of people who should not have them. Now, do we need to tighten background checks on all gun sales? Yes. Can we add appropriate restrictions on magazine capacity and conversions that make handguns into automatic weapons? Yes. Can we crack down further on straw purchases and felons who shouldn't have guns? Yes. Reasonable changes in gun laws are not local matters. So today, again, I call on state as well as federal elected officials to start making the changes in gun laws that people in Milwaukee need. Senator Tammy Baldwin and Representative Gwen Moore, you have been thoughtful champions of public safety, and I am appreciative of your work. Thank you. I also want to ask gun owners to take their responsibilities more seriously. Let me offer this example. In the city of Milwaukee, just last year, 737 guns were stolen from cars. Think about that. Think about that. That's hundreds of guns now in the hands of people who absolutely should not have firearms. If you can't take your gun into a bar, if you can't take your gun into a restaurant, if you can't take your gun into a theater or a sporting event, then don't bring it in the first place. Don't leave your gun in your car. We have challenges other than crime, and we're making progress on those fronts too. So I've got some good news to share today from the Milwaukee Water Works. Together, we have established a new goal of replacing all remaining lead service lines in Milwaukee within the next 20 years. That will reduce by 2/3 our previously estimated time for removing lead laterals in the city. Now, there's no question, any lead exposure is dangerous to young children, and every parent wants their child drinking clean, safe water. We're all taking reasonable steps to get lead out of drinking water, and in doing so, we're advancing a more equitable and healthier city. President Joe Biden's EPA is allocating billions of dollars for local governments to replace lead pipes, and Milwaukee is well positioned to tap into those resources. Working with our state partners, local contractors, advocates, and homeowners, we can replace all of Milwaukee's lead service lines much faster than we initially laid out. There are a lot of great people working for the city of Milwaukee, and they do their jobs with dedication and talent. And on a regular basis, they step up and accomplish something extraordinary. Let me give you an example. 2.5 months ago, Tawana Jordan, a Milwaukee parking enforcement officer, was in the right place at the right time. She spotted a person on a bridge who was obviously contemplating suicide. Now, Tawana could have simply called for help, but she chose to do much more. She stopped. She talked to the person. She said, "You are loved." She was able to walk that person back to the sidewalk and stood by until the police crisis intervention team got there. Please stand, Tawana. Thank you. Thank you, Tawana. Thank you, Tawana. I'm proud to have you as a colleague. Thank you. I love Milwaukee. It's already a great city, and we can do even more to build on that. So at my direction, we're moving forward with an ambitious plan to add up to 50 miles of protected bicycle lanes on our city streets. Now, I want these 50 miles under construction or in active development by 2026. Yes, this is an aggressive and attainable goal. We can do this in Milwaukee. Now, there are numerous benefits to our bike lane plan. We're connecting the city with a new transportation option, which adds safety for bike riders. We're promoting a way to get around that improves both physical as well as mental health. And the addition of protected bike lanes with a defined boundary from the car lane will promote traffic calming and additional safety for all roadway users. You'll see the start of this work underway this year with the protected bike lanes on Highland Avenue from 20th Street west to Washington Park and on Lapham Boulevard from Cesar Chavez Drive to 6th Street. Last month's groundbreaking for the new Martin Luther King Branch Library, which opens in the fall of next year, represents my commitment to Milwaukee's neighborhood-based network of libraries. Our city's libraries stand as powerful symbols of education. They foster connections with city residents that lead to literacy, that lead to jobs that pay sustainable wages, reduce violence, and foster a safe environment for children as well as young adults. Our libraries also achieved remarkable fame. This highly creative social media campaign has successfully reconnected local residents with the library and has refreshed the national image of both libraries and of Milwaukee. With well over 90,000 followers, the library's TikTok and Instagram campaigns have been so successful that Visit Milwaukee recently presented the Milwaukee Public Library with the 2023 Dear MKE Award. Congratulations, Milwaukee Public Library. I think a lot about the future of our city. Our economy, our quality of life, and our identity will continue to evolve. My role, and the role of so many leaders here, is to guide Milwaukee's evolution in ways that benefit the people who live here. That's part of what One Milwaukee means. Building consensus, having goals, and moving us forward. I've talked about wanting Milwaukee to be a city of 1 million residents. 1 mil for one Milwaukee. Now, that's not just a numerical milestone, it's a vision and a goal that allows us to think big. Reaching 1 million people will add new energy and new opportunity. It would redefine Milwaukee in the eyes of people from coast to coast, elevating all the best things about our city. Yes, it's ambitious, but let's be ambitious, because Milwaukee's destiny is in our hands. Today, the state of the city is promising. Key factors are aligning in very positive ways. Doubters and pessimists, we have proved you wrong. Now, I believe in Milwaukee. I believe in Milwaukee. And I believe in one Milwaukee. Listen, we live in a community of new opportunities, new optimism, new renewed promise for all of us. Let's make the most of it. Let's make our future something our children and our children's children will celebrate. Let's create the best version of ourselves. Let's create the best versions of our neighborhoods. And let's create the best version of the city we all love. Thank you so much, Milwaukee. You're the best.